So you are watching
RevUP and Awaken.
Thank you. I'll pay you extra later on. Welcome to RevUP and Awaken. To know thyself is an art of being in touch with your true feelings and not readily accepting what's deemed normal by society's standards. How do we uncover our true, authentic self and feel free to expose it to all to see? Not an easy task, but so worth doing. We are going to take people on a journey of knowing their authentic self. And we're going to have a really lively discussion today. And with me today is Nadia, and she's a shamanic Reiki practitioner. Labels, and an intuitive, a medium, and a creative jewelry designer. And this is one of her pieces right there. And you can find her on TikTok and also healingwithnadia.com. We're coming into a world right now where it seems like this period in our lives right now, we're learning to be who we are and finding that authentic side of us as opposed to the one that's been programmed since, childhood, as Dr. Bruce Lipton has mentioned many times, that where we don't even know who the hell we are and we just accept whatever society tells us, and how we should conduct our lives. And we sometimes just accept things without realizing whether we like it or not, So I wanted to talk about how do we get to that authentic side of ourselves? How do we find out who we are, Know thyself. That's what we need to do. This is a new period in truth consciousness. So how do we do that? Because we've had some really good discussions about that.
Okay. Who am I?
Yes.
Well, I think that the conversation of permission comes to mind, right? We're programmed with the idea that we have to have permission from when we're very young. You ask for permission to go to the restroom. So,
oh my God, yes.
Your relationship with permission is going to be very key here, in my opinion. I feel this way. But I also know that there is an intimate relationship between when you were small and that expression that was coming out. That's the key. Be childlike. The Bible says this, right? But what is the relationship to permission and authenticity? Where do you feel like you have to ask for permission? And I think that's going to be a key place to shift into the authentic voice, right? So what do I mean by this? We're asking for permission, meaning I have to act a certain way to be accepted.
Accepted, right. Right.
So look at that. How do I have to act to be accepted? That place where permission is being asked for, that might be a line where inauthenticity grows. So I think the only way to find your authentic voice is to look at where we might be inauthentic for survival needs, which is totally understandable.
Right. There was a purpose for it in the beginning, because that way it allowed us to adapt and to grow and to not be killed.
Right.
So we had to use some sort of device in order to adapt to the world around us. And our parental figures was like the first grouping of people that came into our lives and started the download of the programming, because they were also programmed and each generation before them was programmed. So each one brings their own ideas of what protection is, security is, or devoid of those aspects in life. So, so all their experiences is coming down the line and being downloaded into us.
That's a great point. And what's coming to mind is I would offer, if we could speak to these individuals, if we could speak to our ancestors and you ask them, were you being authentic? What would their answer be?
Well, I'm sure. Well, they would probably think they were, because does anybody really know otherwise? Because we figure that anything that we accept in our lives on some level is desirous from a core part of us, until we're suddenly placed in a situation that brings us out of that whole thought pattern, and we suddenly realize that we have to start thinking, oh, did I really want to do that? Did I really accept that? Or was I just going along with everybody else?
Being a cog.
Yeah.
Right. So we can extrapolate and then bring it down, and everything's a paradox. Because if you ask the individual, are you authentic? Most people would probably say yes. Mm-hmm. And I think that brings me to my next thought, which is the embodiment of authenticity. And this gets tricky because you would think if you're being authentic in your body, you should feel safe and secure and calm. However, the experience is actually the opposite in a world full of wearing masks and playing a role in order to survive. When you tap into that authentic voice, it's not going to feel safe. Mm-hmm. So then how do you gauge what that looks like? Well, I would argue, or I feel that it looks like that uncomfortability, that in between where you have to express something and it's terrifying. Mm-hmm. But the reason why it's terrifying is because it's important to you, and also the response is unknown.
And it's pulling you out of your comfort zone too. Mm-hmm. We came into being in this world, developed like social mass to get ourselves acclimated to a world that we didn't know immediately how to navigate. Mm-hmm. But as we were navigating through it, those people that were more older than us, whether it was our parents,
powers that be,
powers that be, teachers, then later on your employers, the government, everybody else, they all had a hand in how we ended up securing these types of thoughts that we later on realized we're not really comfortable with. We end up like being in groups that we think that we should be in, because at that time it seems feasible, but then something dawns on us that maybe it's not who you really are.
I think that's such a great point. And I remember the unfolding where I started to almost break free from that program. It was characterized by this thought that I'm about to share with everyone. The thought was, you're not right, you just got here first. You're not right, you just got here first. And I think that what I was communicating through this thought, through this download is, well, my value system says that this is the way that I should be acting. Or these are the morals that I subscribe to. This is what I feel is correct here, that all human beings should be respected and that we should develop and cultivate a field where the unique excellence of the being can thrive and flourish. I believe these things. And yet the reality that I'm living in does not reflect this. And so I feel like there was this inner almost protest where I had to say, like, you're not right. You're just here first. You just had a stage to create something before other creators came and had a different vote. And I think that was so important to unleashing my authentic voice. And it moves me into the ideas of when I said that I was angry. I was angry. And I think that anger is a key emotion to moving into our authenticity, because it shows you where you have been violated.
Right.
And that the voice of anger is going to mark violation. And behind violation is a value system. It's something that you care about. It's something that's important. This is the conversation of boundaries that we're talking about here. But that voice just wanted to exclaim, "You're not right. You were just here first." And it was angry because there's so many attributes of our current reality that are almost upside down, and I call it a clown world. And more people are using that humor to kind of laugh at the absurd. It's freaking absurd to live here. It doesn't make sense. There are rules, but the people who are up here are not following the rules. They're really for a select few, and they're really just meant to keep the status quo.
Right.
So authenticity and anger, I feel like they're brothers. They're comrades. And to extrapolate on that, emotions, broader emotions that we do not allow,
right?
The compass of emotions.
It's very funny about society. They don't want you to go very deeply into how you feel. They always find it that in some way it's going to, violate something. Like you're doing something that's going to upend certain things, and that you shouldn't be paying attention to your emotions, because emotions really is telling you somewhere down deep that something's off, especially if it's an emotion of feeling lost, or you feel angry about something. You feel, like you said, it's like a violation. You're feeling a violation. You're feeling like something is not allowing you to be who you are.
The people who are the most repressed are going to be really unsafe.
Yeah.
Because when we're repressing, it's the idea of repressed selves. It's a psychological thing. Miriam knows that me and details, we're not friends, but I'm a big picture thinker. And so when I heard this concept, it really stuck with me. So the idea is, when I don't allow something in myself that you are exhibiting, I then go to war with it. I make it bad or wrong. I moralize it because it's not something that I allow within me. And it's almost like we're walking around the world creating these mini wars with each other because we don't understand.
Yeah.
And so authenticity, it takes a lot of bravery and courage to be your authentic self. And it's not going to be celebrated, right? And I also believe we're still experiencing this matrix reality. So there's going to be moments where I'm going to be unfiltered and me. And then there could be moments where I'm silent and I allow. And those two things are okay, depending on where you are. And safety is a part of the conversation that we can take into account. But there comes a point where if we're thinking about the larger picture and we think about the values and we imagine and we go into a field where we're thinking, what world do I imagine for my children, my children's children, my great-grandchildren, and so on and so forth? What is a legacy I'm leaving here? There is a tipping point where you have to speak up and in that authentic voice and be courageous and say, actually, that doesn't sit right with me. I don't vote for this thing. And I think that we're finding that a lot of us think this way.
Right. Yeah.
But not very many people are finding that inner courage to use their throat chakra.
Stay tuned for more RevUP Awaken with my interview with Shamanic Reiki practitioner and intuitive Nadia. Don't forget to visit healingwithnadia.com to peruse her services. Recognizing your own true voice creates a clearer connection between you and that divine source. As Greg Braden recently stated, divinity is our ability to transcend perceived human limitations. Thanks for taking the time to listen and reflect. Let us all transcend our personal limitations, and we will see you soon here on RevUP Awaken.